Ooh, up everyone, this is Mr. Lord Dark Professor Dark Joker with this week's video. And this week, I'm going to go over the state of Star Wars after Kathleen Kennedy's departure. Yes, after years of being reported that she's going to leave, that she's going to get fired, various rumors here and there from different outlets, different YouTubers, whoever. She, the cunt is finally gone. Like, she's gone. Like, years ago, there would be a bunch of celebration over this after all she did. Now, given everything that's happened, especially regards to some stuff some people under her have done, which we'll get into that a little bit, there isn't a celebration. We're just like, we don't care. Star Wars is dead. Like nothing. Like until Disney is completely cleaned out of all the filth, all the people who have damaged Star Wars, damaged basically like Star Wars is gonna stay dead. Like even though there's stuff to be excited for, like Ninth Jedi, that's really the only thing I'm actually excited for. Not really excited for anything else. Not even Ball Shout Lord. Like Star Wars is dead. That is just a fact. So I'm gonna go over what all has happened, some of my speculations for the future, and yeah. So with all that being said, on with the video. Here's what we know. So Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down as president of Lucasfilm. And so Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni and General Manager Lynwen Brennan are replacing her as co-president. So they're both holding the role. So Filoni's going to run the creative operations while Brennan's running the business operations. So basically, they're kind of doing what they're already been doing, you know, because like basically, Kennedy was not as I don't know how she didn't have as much direct involvement as a lot of people think. She was hell involved. She knew a lot of people because she worked with Spielberg. She's married to Frank Marshall. She had worked with George Lucas before, so she knew people, and that kind of is how they were able to get some various actors and directors, producers involved in different projects because she knew some people, and people think she's a big producer. I mean, the only thing she ever produced was a cup of coffee. I mean, I guess she was very good at making coffee. I mean, so yeah, and now, even though Kennedy's gone, she's still going to have some involvement in Lucasfilm after departure, kind of like what happened with Bob Iger. So Bob Iger, you know, briefly, he had left, he had stepped down as CEO of Disney. Bob Chapek replaced him, but Iger was still involved. I mean, Chapek was the face coin, but Iger still had a lot of say in things. And of course, we all know he came back. Chapek was basically fired. We all know what happened. We all know about and I'll get into Iger in a little bit. Um, so yeah, but that's all we know right now about what's going on. Like until we see Filoni and Brennan doing the job, officially acting as presidents, we'll see what all happens. But we'll see what happens. But this is all we know right now. Now for my personal speculations as to what will happen with Filoni and Brennan in charge. So most importantly, Star Wars will stay dead. Filoni will, as bright creative stuff, will continue damaging the brand as Kennedy wanted. Because so Filoni, a lot of those talks have died down due to some recent projects he's been involved with. But for a while, he was called like a savior of Star Wars. A lot of that had to do with when Star Wars was not dead, some of the stuff he was making was considered good. So Star Wars Rebels, Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, you had the first season of Bad Batch. Now, Resistance, which I don't know how much involvement he had in Resistance because he had Rebel season 4 and Mandalorian season 1 being developed the same time as Resistance. So I don't know how much involvement he actually had with Resistance. I don't know. But his name's on it. So he does deserve a lot of blame for that. And of course, Book of Boba Fett, the mobster show that was heavily screwed up. Gosh, they couldn't find someone with experience with the mobster genre. They couldn't get Scorsese, Coppola, or David Chase involved with it. Like what the heck? Anyway, so anyway, but the big thing was so Last Jedi, released 2017. Rebel season 4 started in 2017, ended in early 2018. So you had two things to directly compare. And of course you had, Solo in 2018, and then you had, basically Mandalorian season 1 in 2019, early 2020, Rise of Skywalker 2019, and of course you had Clone Wars season 7 in 2020. So you had things to compare between them, and Mandalorian season 2 in 2020. Like so, you had things to compare the two. Compare Filoni stuff and then the sequel trilogy. Like so that Filoni was heavily directly involved with. Like yes, Filoni I think made some suggestions for the sequel. But I don't know how much involvement, direct involvement he had in those movies. He was on the sets, like he was observing stuff because one, he was getting experience, trying to get experience in live action, and two, obviously he had worked with George Force, so they wanted him on the set. So yeah, so he had some involvement. I don't know how much with the sequel trilogy. I don't know exactly. I think Force Awakens he has some credits for. I don't know. I don't think he has too much credits about the other two. Force Awakens he does have some credits, but like yeah, so Filoni does deserve some blame. I think for some of the issues with Force Awakens, but with Last Jedi Rise of Skywalker, due to the fact that I don't think he had a lot of involvement with those two. When you have his stuff released around the same time as those two, there was something to compare, and that is why he was seen as the savior of Star Wars. I myself believe that potentially be true. Now, of course, you have the rumors of the conflict between Filoni and Favreau versus Kennedy. I didn't think it was like extremely severe because I mean, otherwise, I think Kennedy would have fired Filoni and Favreau if that was the case. Because Kennedy was president, I think she had the authority to do that. And I mean, unless due to the fact some of the success Filoni was having, Iger was like, keep him. I don't think Kennedy would have kept like Filoni and Favreau if there was an actual like quote Lucasfilm civil war. So there wasn't. No, Filoni was a lot of stuff he had said, like some of he said some conference like about Ray and stuff, Ray and Jyn Erso, like at some conference he was attending, whatever, like years ago. A lot of that wasn't as well known as it is now. Like just the fact, I mean, he wasn't as big as much of a household name back then. But now when we had Rebels, Mandalorian, he was a very much more of a household name, like amongst like normies and stuff. So people were saying he committed, but no, but a lot of scholars became more prominent. Now, so then you had Book of Boba Fett, Resistance, red flags for him. Then you had his report involved with Obi-Wan, like with the Kenobi show, The Acolyte. Then you had Mandalorian season 3. Now Obi-Wan, Star Wars, of course, was dead after that point. Like I would say that was the final nail in the coffin. When you look at the ratings for everything before Obi-Wan and after Obi-Wan, oh, Obi-Wan was the final nail in the coffin. Of course, Bad Bad season 1, I think, had some decent ratings. Season 2 and 3, believe their ratings were very low, but they came after Obi-Wan, and that's big. Also, big reason why Andor had low ratings. Yeah, people praise Andor, but it had low ratings for both seasons. And so Filoni, honestly, Filoni as chief creative officer, he had to approve Andor. People say there was a conflict between him and Gilroy. If there was a conflict, if and people say Filoni hates Andor, if he had hated Andor, he wouldn't have approved it. He wouldn't have approved Andor if he had. Those rumors were a load of crap. I'll just say it right here. They were full of crap. And look, and even if he and Favreau had disagreements with Kennedy, I don't think they were significant enough to as significant as some stuff may be reported. And even if they came up with some ideas that down the road could have been used to fix Star Wars, okay, they also could be used to further damage it. So, I mean, yeah, the world between worlds, yes, it can be used to decanonize Disney Star Wars. It can be used for that purpose. Will it be used? No, but yes, it can. Now, as far and like so, and of course we know the brand. Like, if Maul's Shadow Lord is bad, that will damage the brand. Like it, and like that has potential, but I do have a lot of concerns. And of course, Night Jedi. I'm excited for it. He had to approve that. I don't think he had really too much involved with that because Visions and of course Night Jedi, which spun off of Visions. A lot of those were made by foreign studios. So a lot of Lucasfilm stuff, they just approved it and they basically just signed off, I think. I don't think they were heavily involved in production, which is, I think, for seasons 1 and 2, I think really helped the production. Seasons 1 and 3. Season 2, well, season 2 just sucked. Like, season 2 was just straight up trash for Visions. Now, for, of course, the Acolyte, his involvement was heavily reported because people were expect Acolyte was High Republic. People were knew it was going to fail. Like High Republic show was going to fail, so they report Filoni's involvement to like try and get people to watch it because they thought it could still work. But after Ahsoka, no, Filoni's reputation was done after Ahsoka. It was, and Tales of the Jedi in name only released. I heard that I didn't see it. I heard that got some praise. Tales of the Empire, I didn't see that. That I heard bad things about that. So that further damages his reputation. Then Tales of the Underworld, I did see that. That show sucked. Like some such retarded things in that. And so Filoni basically was exposed as a fraud. That he is not the savior of Star Wars. He is in what if there was any chance that if there was any possibility that he was gonna save Star Wars, that has been gone for years. Like he made his choice. If like there is a like like I think he's loyal to himself. I don't think he was loyal to Kennedy. I don't think he was loyal to George Lucas, to Star Wars, to the fans. I think he was loyal to himself. So whatever creative ideas he made, input some stuff, it was to further his own ends. So if he had did if as president he did decide to save Star Wars, and if he did fix Star Wars, great. Like if Filoni fixes Star Wars, I will be happy. Let's be real. If he actually fixes Star Wars, saves it, resurrects it, that will be great. I do not think it will happen. I think he will further desecrate the corpse. Like I think that is what I think will happen. Ryan Kinnell, a great YouTuber by the way, is right. Ryan Kinnell has been proven right. Basically, everything after Ahsoka has just been a victory lap for Ryan, and congratulations for him on the victory lap. Like on being basically being proven right. Like well done to him. And so yeah, so like it's like Filoni is gonna like people say we're not gonna get something as sophisticated as Andor. Okay, Andor is not freaking sophisticated. There's a lot of retardation in that. The fact that where the heck the blonde ISB lady, where the heck her name was, I don't care. But the fact that she was not killed, I mean, she shouldn't have made it to the prison. Like after she got arrested, like after she got caught, like basically like letting like basically secrets leak the way they're doing some very dumb stuff that a high-ranking ISB officer would know you do not do, regardless of whatever your opinions about some coworkers are. And also, like Vader would not have let her. Like Vader would have killed her. Like Vader would have killed. Heck, I think Thrawn would have killed her. Like Thrawn was not very keen on did not he was like basically he was not at he did not kill his subordinates as much as Vader did. Like Vader would do it for very like he didn't need much reason to do that, and that's well known. Thrawn, you had to give him a good reason to do that. Basically, like as an heir of the Empire, where he like basically shoots like one of the Imperials on the bridge because basically like the guy was trying to make excuses and saying it wasn't his fault. He was trying to make excuses and Thrawn just shot him dead. And he basically says difference between an error and a mistake is that an error becomes a mistake is when you refuse to fix it. He kills the guy and tells the CO fix the problem. Like Thrawn would have killed that agent, that blonde ISB agent, whatever her name was. He would have killed her. He would after hearing her, he would just killed her point blank. That is what he would have done. Thrawn would do that. That shows you how bad she screwed up. The fact that she survived to make it to the prison makes no sense. And a lot of the other issues, like how they portray Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, the fact that they left out Garmbel Iblis. There's a lot of problems with Andor. It's people say, "Oh, it's some high art sophistication." Like, yes, yes, some high art, some sophistication. You, it rewards thinking. Oh, shut up. Like, like people say you have to be intelligent. Like, you have to. Basically, it comes as like, it's like if you don't like it, you're just media. You're just it's just media illiteracy. Oh, really? You're talking about illiteracy? I probably read more books than some of the people that say that. That bullcrap. Anyway, so look, yeah, we may not get something as dark toned as Andor. A lot of them be more like Mandalorian, TCW in tone. Like Maul Shadowlord, even though it's gonna be a mobster show, I don't think it's gonna be very dark toned, which it probably should be if it's a mobster show. Like what Underworld was probably like Underworld. If George had made it, had actually was able to make it, which he wasn't, because I think it was gonna be 50 million per episode. As it was live action. I think that would have been a very dark toned mobster show. And honestly, I think it would have been pretty good. Now, if he had just done it at like, if he had just finished Clone Wars, like done all the seasons, go up to season Mandalore, and then made Underworld a animated Adult Swim sequel to Clone Wars to put it as 1 million per episode instead of 50 million per episode, which would save a lot of money. Because I think it was like 50 or 100 episodes he had planned out. So basically, he would have made that whole show for one or two live action versions. Like he could anyway. So like he could have been a dark like Maul Shower. I'm not expecting to be very dark toned as it should be. It should be dark toned. It is a Darth Maul centered story. It is a mobster story. Like Book of Boba Fett was not dark toned, and that was based on what the ending, the post credit scene of Mandalorian season 2. I was expecting that to be dark, like a good mobster show, which is not what we got. So yes, Filoni is going to be very light, like probably too lighthearted. Because yes, as a fan of TCW, like I'm a fan of the Clone Wars 2008. Now I think Tarkovsky's version is better, but I do agree with some of the criticisms with Clone Wars. Yes, I agree. Uh, Anakin and Dooku should not be meeting in between Attack the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Now, I also say Grievous should not be meeting Obi-Wan, neither Obi-Wan nor Anakin before Revenge of the Sith. Now, they were able to keep Anakin and Grievous from meeting, but they had Obi-Wan meet Grievous, but whatever. But and some other issues, but like, because there were some good ideas in teaser. Now, I think George Lucas deserves more credit for the Clone Wars than Filoni does, because you can see now the good and bad in regards to that. George Lucas deserved like the good, like when Clone Wars was doing very well. That's freaking George Lucas. Now, anyway, so Filoni, he is not the savior. He is some. hack, he will just continue destroying the brand. Anyway, now as far as some upcoming projects that we know about, so the Mandalorian, Grogu, and Starfire are the two next movies. I think those are gonna flop. Like Solo and Rise of Skywalker both flopped. Rise of Skywalker, we recently learned, had flopped, like due to some financial information that came out. It made $1 billion and flopped. That is embarrassing. People say, "Oh, it made over $1 billion." It still lost money. If you lose money, it is not successful. Like, just accept that, Disney Star Wars fans, with Solo, with Rise of Skywalker, or James Gunn fan, or like was it the Gun Gooners with that with Superman. That was a terrible movie. I mean, yes, you may like it. It still flopped. That means it was not successful. Now, and with Mandalorian Grow and Starfire, if they flop, those flops would occur. They would be occurring during Filoni and Brennan's tenure as co-presidents. So the media, I think the media will shift. So even though those movies were made while Kennedy was president, they will shift. I think they'll shift Kennedy's portion of the blame to Filoni and Brennan. Now, Filoni and Brennan will deserve part of the blame. Of course, Filoni is the chief creative officer, so obviously he was involved in the creation of both of those movies, especially Mandalorian and Grogu, because he was heavily involved with that along with Jon Favreau. Because basically that's him and Favreau running that movie. Like him and Favreau were running Mandalorian and Grogu, Starfighter, like the main person with that was a like main person was Sean, like you had Sean Levy, Jonathan Tropper. Those were the main, but Filoni is involved with that. That is a fact. And Brennan being the GM was, I guess, handle some like financial stuff or whatever. I don't know exactly how what all. I think she was basically what she's going to be doing as president, is what she's been doing as GM. So she obviously she was probably involved in, I guess, allocating some money or something. So she had some involvement as well. And so people will try to say Foley and Brand are to blame for Manuel Grogu and Starfire flopping. A lot of me, they will not blame Kennedy because she would no longer be president, and then like that will happen, and that'll get into a comparison later. And another thing happened: if the Ray movie gets canceled, like officially canceled, like not quietly, like they just quietly stop working on it and don't bring it up again. Don't bring it like like the Ryan Johnson trilogy, because not there's a lot of stuff that gets announced, but then they just quietly stop production. They don't officially cancel it. There are exceptions, like I think the Weiss and Benioff trilogy was officially canceled. I think the Kevin Feige movie was officially canceled. I think I've heard some like I mean I think I was watching. I was like I think it was Friday Night Tights. I think it was Gary discussed something either he had heard about how it got canceled, which was an interesting story. Yeah, and so if the Ray movie gets canceled, there will be a lot of backlash directed at Filoni and Brennan. Like especially Filoni because he's like the main creative guy now because he's writing the creative stuff. Like if the Ray movie gets canceled, like about Ray, like okay, so a lot you have the sequel trilogy fans, you have the Raylos, those freaks. Um, you have the mainstream media who are all about Ray's the like Ray's our best ever. Like she's a Skywalker. No, she's a freaking Palpatine. She is a Palpatine, not a Skywalker. She is not a Skywalker. She's a Palpatine. Accept that. Like accept that or go to hell. Okay, and no, so there will be a lot of backlash directed towards floating brain. Like that will happen. Like if the Ray officially gets because it's been so many reruns. It's like the Blade movie. Like I don't think either one of those, like the Blade movie that MCU had announced with Marshall Ali, That's not going to happen because of all the rewrites. The Blade movie's not going to happen. And I think the Ray movie's going to be the same way. I don't now. I think both cases going to be like now. Like I think they'll just stop production of the Ray movie. I think it'll just be in development hell for a while. But why would it be officially canceled? Well, easy. It I guarantee it is a guaranteed flop. Like unless the budget is like extremely low, which I don't think it would be. I think it would be a very expensive movie. Like just do like special effects, CGI, and all that. The Ray movie will be very expensive, and with all the rewrites they've been doing, like that is gonna bump up that budget a lot. Like that movie will flop because I mean a lot of people don't like Ray Papeltine. Like people don't like her as a character. I mean, I mean there are female characters we would like to see like done well, like Mara Jade, Jaina Solo, Tahiri Vela, um, Bastila Shawn, Satel Shawn, Darth Zana, Darth Cognis, a few, but yeah. So, but if it officially gets canceled, like they are gonna take some heat. Like they will probably, I would get like they would like they will take a lot of backlash from the media, from the shills in the audience, like the Disney Star Wars fans. Like that will happen. Now, their big thing is that so Filoni's Heir to the Empire in name only movie. So there was some rumor, I think, a while back that the however well Mandalorian Grogu does will determine how whether or not Heir to the Empire gets made. Okay, with Filoni as president, as co-president with Brennan. So Kennedy was above him. So with Filoni as co-president, there's not as much oversight over it. So the odds of Heir to the Empire being made, I think, do increase because there's less oversight over him. Really, after it's just Bob Iger. Like that's all. It's just Bob Iger that's over him. And like, was it Alan Horn or whoever? I think is it? Yeah. Basically, like I can't remember who all's in between Bob Iger and the studio heads. Like like basically it's just Iger and then the people directly below Iger that are like above studio heads. That's it, and the board, of course. And that's it. So Heir to the Empire, I think the odds go up because there's just less oversight. And another thing, and basically everyone's agreed this is the case, Ahsoka Tano is going to become the most prominent character in Disney Star Wars. What I predict is going to happen is that so in Ahsoka season 2, I don't think there's going to be a season 3. I could be wrong, but with Filoni, there's a chance season. I think based on the statues of the ones that you see that I think is Balin Skull sees in Ahsoka season 1, I think they were setting up Abeloth as a villain for season 2. I think they're gonna have Ahsoka kill Abeloth. Now how? Now the question is, what is that? So possibilities of what the deal with Abeloth is. One is possibly possessing Sabine. Like Sabine was not shown to be force sensitive at all in Rebels. Uh, Kaden Jarrus would have noticed he was force sensitive if that was the case. Like would have noticed, but she was like, "Oh, she can use the like what the frick?" Like if she was possessed by someone who I guess was good enough at controlling their presence to not overwhelm a vessel, which something that the Emperor had in Dark Empire had some issue because that's why he had to get clone bodies because none of the vessels were powerful enough to contain his spirit. Anyway, so if Abeloth is possessing Sabine, that could be how they bring Abeloth in now, or someone else possessing Sabine like Darth Plagueis or Vitiate, Momin, Nihilus, whoever, Indedu. Like like some spirit, where it's out, where some evil spirit, where it's Abeloth, where it's some Sith. I like Sabine being possessed is best explanation, or if it's like what happened in the Nigel Public comics, uh, where basically there's the whole deal about like so you had like you had the so you had Zane Carrick's like girlfriend like from the Nigel Republic comics like what was her name like so like who was like a slave like who was a like a former slave and like but was believed to be forced into at some point, but it's real that Demigol had was using the force through her. Like that's what happened. Like that is how it happened. So yeah, so Jarell. So Jarell, like who like basically was believed force sensitive. It was then revealed no, she's not. Demigod was just using the force through her and just looked like she was. If someone was doing that to Sabine, that would make some sense. Like that would make sense, but should be explained. But who knows? Like they're gonna do the whole, oh, if you try hard enough, you can use the force. That's not how the force works. Like now, family lineage does not guarantee force sensitivity or non-force sensitivity because you have Theron Sean's mother was a grandmaster in the Jedi Order and he was descended from Revan and Bastila. He was not force sensitive. Lobaka, Chewbacca's nephew, was force sensitive, but none of his family was. And Ania Solo is not shown any signs of force sensitivity, and she's like descendant of Alana Solo, the Jedi Queen, and a descendant of Darth Vader, the Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. Yes, Anakin's the Chosen One, not anyone else. So yeah, they're gonna do this. So if you try hard, if you use words, that is some of the most retarded crap ever. Like no, that is not how the Force works. Get through their thick freaking skulls. Like we're democratizing the Force. No, you're not. You're just dumbing it down because you're so freaking dumb. That's what you're doing, Disney. Anyway, and so now, as far as besides Abeloth, their possibility of villain is the Grisk. So the Grisk introduced in the Thrawn novels, Thrawn alliances, Thrawn treason, and were basically so Thrawn's like lead had fought them. So the Grisk, you know, their home planet was not known. A lot of people believe they're basically Disney's version of Yuuzhan Vong because Disney likely doesn't have the balls to do the true Yuuzhan Vong, or using like basically writing biological, like basically writing like space alien, like spacefaring aliens as vessels, like no no like mechanical based technology, using the bones and limbs of their victims as body enhancements and weapons. Like true Yuuzhan Vong, who like brutal, probably one of the most brutal races in all of Star Wars. Like between them and the Rakatans, like amongst the races we know about alien race, amongst all the races we know about in Star Wars, it's between the Yuuzhan Vong and Rakatans as who's the most brutal. Like it's pretty close. And Rakatans versus Yuuzhan Vong, that would have been a war. I mean, I think Rakatans would have won that, but and then now, but the Grisk is like believed due to like their design. It's not exactly Yuuzhan Vong, but there's some similarities. So some people think so possibly since Thrawn had been fighting the Grisk, and there are theories that and Thrawn was possibly running from something when he came back to the main galaxy. So some people are thinking that the Grisk could have been the enemy, or Abeloth, and so the Grisk could be an enemy that Ahsoka fights in that galaxy and defeats. So not you don't have and now it's also possible actually bring the Yuzhan Vong to bring in another EU group, like another EU race. And so but it would be a dumbed down version that Yuzhan Vong. It would not. It would be like it would be basically like not the brutality that you would see in the EU for the Yuzhan Vong. Because it's freaking Disney. They don't have the balls to do it. Like after making Pirates of the Caribbean, which got pretty brutal. Pirates of the Caribbean got pretty brutal. A Disney product, like like franchise, a very good Disney franchise, I might add. Especially those first three, like well, one of the greatest trilogies ever, but not the greatest, but it's up there. And then yeah, so Disney will not let true use involved be used. So, but now it's possible to give the Grisk and use involved be separate races, and basically Soka will kill both, and basically like lead the defeat. So taking a lot of the stuff that Luke had done, with New Jedi Order, with the Yuuzhan Vong, Fate of the Jedi, with Abeloth, and possibly taking something away from Alana Solo. Like if Abeloth had returned in because I think Troy Denning was gonna write a novel trilogy, but it wasn't fit. But due to the fact that Disney bought the company, bought Lucasfilm, and it did the EU, which is why we never got Sword of the Jedi, the Troy Denning trilogy, which I believe was gonna involve Alana Solo. Like I think it was gonna be called the Jedi Queen trilogy. I think that's what it was gonna be called. So I think Alana was brought up. Yeah, Troy Denning, of course, claimed Alana was gonna be the chosen one, that's not the case. Anakin's the chosen one. I mean, now Alana was gonna sit on the throne of balance. What all the throne would that entail? Who knows? Like, but I think Abeloth was going to be involved with that, and Alana potentially was going to be the one to kill Abeloth. Basically, she would be trained. I think Alana was going to be trained by Luke and basically be like his last Padawan, like be the last Padawan of Luke Skywalker. Get a bunch of train, and basically other people will probably help her and train. She would get a lot of train and then kill Abeloth and sit on the throne of balance, whoever. And of course, the one Sith may have been involved. I don't know. I think in Sword of the Jedi, the one Sith were definitely involved there, based on some of the concept art. But yeah, so a lot of Solo's exploits could be taken. Now, speaking of the one Sith, I could see Darth Krayt, Ahsoka. Basically, they're gonna have Ahsoka kill. Filoni gonna have Ahsoka defeat Darth Krayt. So taking away some of the stuff from Luke Skywalker, Jaina Solo, Cade Skywalker, like that is gonna that's gonna cause some problems. But yeah, Ahsoka's just gonna be like the face of Star Wars, even though she shouldn't be. The face of Star Wars should always be Luke and Anakin. Those are the faces of Star Wars. Now, there's some speculation on my part has to do with why Kennedy stepped down when she did. And it's because I think it's to have. I think she was trying to do what Bob Iger did to Bob Chapek. So Bob Iger, you know, some people were like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers predicted this when Bob Iger stepped down back, like I think it was like 2020. Like he predicted this, and I agreed with him. And obviously Jeremy was proven right. So Bob Iger stepped down, in 2020. Chapek, replaced him. Basically Chapek was running Park, so he wasn't really involved in the production of like movies and stuff. But when a bunch of flops happened that were made during Iger's tenure, so during 2021, 2022, a lot of those flops, because there was a lot of flops, Chapek got blamed because he was the CEO at the time. Now, did he deserve some blame? Yes, because he was the CEO. It's a leadership thing. You got to take ownership. And maybe there was some stuff he could have canceled that he didn't. I don't know. I don't know what some of the legal stuff regarding that. I don't know. if he could cancel some stuff that was guaranteed flops and that would damage future projects, like their potential revenues, and he didn't cancel them, that is on him. But if he legally could not cancel them, because I think there was some stuff where that was the case, you know, there's only Chapek couldn't. Then that's out of Chapek's hands, especially if it was made during Iger's tenure. So Chapek doesn't deserve as much blame for some of the problems as people give. Now he definitely deserves some because he made a lot of mistakes. But a lot of mistakes that happened that caused those flops happened during Iger's tenure, including the sequel trilogy that damaged future projects. So there was stuff that was really that damaged the prospects of future projects that happened. And those mistakes happened during Iger's tenure. Like the reason the company is the way it is all stuff that happened during Bob Iger's first tenure. Chapek got blamed for a lot of stuff, so Iger did a comeback, had Chapek removed. He came back and says, try to make a comeback as a way to quote fix Disney to like try, you know, basically make himself a big name. And I think he was going to try to use that as a way to run for president because of when the first contract was going to expire. Because I think it expired before like like the 2024. So I think he was yeah, like potentially try to run for president. That's why I think Iger was going to do. Obviously, that didn't happen, and flops still happen. And Iger's reputation has significantly been damaged because a lot of normies finally figured out that Iger is a freaking hack who just buys stuff. He can't make anything. Like he's just making it rain out there, like buying out different companies. That's all he did. So Bob Iger was trying to restore like make himself look good because Chapek dealt with the fallout of Iger's decisions, while Iger didn't get really much blame for it. Now, us who were in the know, us as hardcore fans who knew how much blame Iger had, we made sure Iger got his share was blamed. Like, and Chapek became the fall guy, and people who were predicting that would be the case, like Jeremy for Geeks and Gamers, were proven right. And so now, one thing that's going to be different in this case is, so I think Kennedy stepped down so that some of the fallout, like Mandalorian Grogu, Starfire flopping, and if a Rey movie gets canceled, blame for those things, and if Heir to the Empire also flops, which I think that will too, is Filoni and Brennan getting blamed because they be the presidents instead of her. So a lot of the blame that would go to her would actually go to Filoni and Brennan. And I think, and like that's what a lot of media will push. And I think, and people say, oh, Star Disney actually had financial successes under Kennedy, but it's just been flops under Filoni and Brennan. Even though they don't acknowledge James Gunn's movies have like DC movies have flopped, but whatever. And then but due to Kenny's age, I don't think she'll try a comeback just because of her age. I mean, that's just how it is. Due to her age, she's in her 70s. If a comeback would happen, she would be like in her mid or late 70s at the earliest. No, I don't. I think she's going to enjoy retirement. I think instead of trying to make a comeback, I think it's a way to protect her legacy. Which I think is also why. So you had the rumors reported like a few months ago. It was like I think it was like late last year. Like rumors that Bob Iger was undermining Kennedy and is the one who actually was the one responsible for for the destruction of Star Wars. Even though like those rumors were complete bull crap, Iger I don't think cared enough about creative stuff to get that involved. Like Kennedy was more involved than Iger was. Like those Iger versus Candy rumors were complete bull crap. And I guarantee if there was a conflict that was so severe between them, I would have fired Kennedy. Like I think he would have fired her. I mean, he was the CEO at Disney. I mean, he could, and given the fact that a lot of fans hated Kennedy after the Last Jedi, he could have gotten away with it. Oh, I mean, unless you have the whole, oh, she knows Spielberg, she was handpicked by George Lucas, she's married to Frank Marshall. Yes, Iger owns Disney. What's gonna hold? I mean, that is gonna hold a lot of sway. Owning Disney, especially with all the studios Disney owns, that holds a lot of sway. If Iger and Kennedy really had a severe conflict, Iger would have gotten rid of Kennedy, I think. He could have gotten away with it just due to the amount of pull Disney has in Hollywood. Like, but I think those rumors were pushed by Kennedy to help protect her legacy. Because you had, Chris Gore was reported that he was told by someone that Kennedy was to leave on the win. Now that win, of course, never happened. Like Andor season 2 had low ratings. It had a bunch of award nominations. I can't remember. I don't know how much it won. Season 2 won, or you probably did, I don't think it deserved any of them. But like, won a bunch of awards. It wasn't a win because the ratings were so bad. Like the viewership numbers were bad. You know, so and then that wasn't the win. I mean, Lego Star Wars pieces of the rebuild the galaxy, pieces of the past. That was decent. That's a Lego thing that basically was very niche, got lower viewership. It was decent, definitely better than the first Rebuild the Galaxy show, but it wasn't low viewership. It wasn't a win. There wasn't a win. The last, I guess you could say, win was Mandalorian season 2. That or Bad Batch season 1. Bad Batch season 1, I would say you could argue say was the last actual win, like from a critical standpoint, audience standpoint, I mean financial. I mean due to the fact that it was relatively cheap. I mean it was cheap. That was the last actual you could say win for Disney Star Wars. Nothing like there hasn't been anything since then. That's just a fact. There hasn't been a win since then. So I think Kenny just eventually recognized it and decided to just focus on trying to pre- preserve as much of her legacy as she can. That's what I think. I could be wrong, and but I think a lot of the rumors of significant conflicts involving Lucasfilm, I think they're bullcrap. That's what I think. Because there have been some more firings going on. Like there have been some people getting fired if there was actually a conflict. So yeah, I think this is just Kennedy trying to protect her legacy and make Filoni and Brennan scapegoats for a lot of her mistakes. Does not mean now Filoni and Brennan do deserve plenty of blame for a lot of the flops that are coming and for a lot of the problems. They do, especially Filoni since he was the chief creative officer, so he had to approve a lot of stuff, including the acolyte. But Kennedy deserves a lot of blame. This is just her trying to like basically like not like this is her just trying to protect her legs. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. And that's it. Did y'all like this video? Did you dislike this video? Do you agree? What do you think about how Star Wars is gonna be? Do you think are you some retard that thinks Filoni's gonna save Star Wars? Which at this point I'm like, why would you think that? Why would you think Filoni's gonna save Star Wars with everything that's happened? Like post Obi-Wan, which Filoni was involved with. And he was also involved with Book of Boba Fett. Which everyone knew he was involved with Book of Boba Fett. Filoni, like Obi-Wan, it was mostly reported by like think Deborah Chow, where, but like everything post Obi-Wan that he was heavily involved with his name all over stuff. Uh, we saw what happened. It wasn't really good. Like it's not good for Filoni. Like people are like, "Oh, Filoni is not the savior. He is just a grave robber at this point. He is a grave robber of like that is what he is." So now, do you agree that my opinion that this whole transition was just Kennedy trying to preserve her legacy? do you do you agree that Filoni will continue desecrating the corpse? How involved do you think Brennan's going to be in all this? I think she's just going to be just doing business stuff, and that's all she'll do. I don't think she's going to be too creatively involved. So her name's not going to get thrown out a lot. Like, whatever all that, put all that in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Look forward to the next video.